Hello friends, welcome back to a new video where we start the history lecture series in snippets. So today's video I will be starting with the ancient Indian part. So in the ancient Indian part where I wish to start is from the Stone Age onwards. So I'll just tell the chronology from the Stone Age. We will look into the important, say, Stone Age sites like the way the culture has been evolved, the difference between culture and civilization, and how from the Stone Age it resulted in around 5000 BC or so there is the agricultural revolution. From the agricultural revolution, we see cities getting propped up. I mean, for Indian perspective, we are looking into the Indus Valley civilization, like that is one among the five important civilizations in the world. So we will look into the Indus Valley civilization, the early phase, later phase, mature phase, decline of the Indus Valley civilization. Then we will look into the Vedic age, early Vedic age, later Vedic age. Then of course we have to look into the post-Vedic age and also the rise of Mahajanapadas and important religions like Buddhism, Jainism, and then you will look into the Mauryan period. Once the Mauryan period is over, we will have to look into the post-Mauryan period where we study about the Shakas, Kushanas, Satavahana Empire and all. Then on the turn of the century, we will look into the evolvement of Mahayana Buddhism and obviously the Kushanas, kings like Kanishka. Then on moving forward, we will have to look into the Gupta period around 315 AD to 550 AD. And in the end of the Guptas, the important dynasty that we will have to look into is the Harshavardhanas dynasty, and also at the same time you have to look into the south where you have the Chalukyas, Pallavas, and also, and almost the ancient will end by the time when Muhammad bin Qasim's invasion happens in the Sindh. That's the arrival of Islam. So I've just said about the chronology of the events. So to give you a bird's eye view, so this is what we will be doing in part 1, part 2, part 3 also in the ancient India. And after the ancient is completed, we will go with the medieval, then with the modern, and finally with the world history part. So without further delay, we will just look into the evolution. So from the evolutionary perspective, what I am talking about is very specific to the Indian subcontinent because we are mostly dealing with the Indian history. So when the world history comes, that is about mostly after the Industrial Revolution world history part. So here, when I am talking about the Stone Age, early Stone Age, late Stone Age, and all those things, you don't have to worry much about the dates because in different books you find different things. So first of all, I will tell you the sources from where I've taken the materials for the classes, which I will be projecting here and there. So there is A.L. Basham's book of the ancient Indian part. So because A.L. Basham is, if you can say, he has been in somewhat a pioneer of, there is Vincent Arthur Smith, but A.L. Basham's book has been used as some kind of a Bible by people who have written the books for academic purposes, whether it is Romila Thapar or Satish Chandra and all, because they all come from that school of thought. Then another book which is very relevant for the cultural sources is A History of Ancient and Medieval India by Upinder Singh. She's a professor of Delhi University, the daughter of Manmohan Singh. So that book is also a well-researched book. And also, even when it comes to South India, you have A.N. Neelakanta Shastri is a history of South India. That also gives, although it is mostly renowned for this Vijayanagar Empire, you also do get a considerable amount of things about Sangam Cholas and also Pallavas, Chalukyas. So those things you get an idea from those books. So I'm just particularly talking about the ancient and early medieval as per se. So now let's look into how the evolution as per se happened and how a civilization was formed. So if you look into everywhere in the world, you can see, right, when the evolution happens. See, for example, like you can think about, like, see, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalis. Then comes Homo sapiens. After Homo neanderthalis, there is a Cro-Magnon man. Then the Homo sapiens. So once that evolution is almost there, that is when the human beings, as we see today, are able to use their arms and all for using the stone tools. So the stone tools also, it was initially, you can see the crude core tools. Okay, then it got flaked a little bit. You have the flake tools. Then it is used as blade tools. Blade tools means it is much sharpened. I mean, okay, and that time, it initial point of time, you can see that they were using even raw meat at one point of time. But as time progresses, what happened is, there is around 10,000 BC. Around 10,000 BC, the kind of the global warming that we are seeing today almost kind of started. So what happened is, like, when the temperature began to get increased, what we see is like the ice age began to drift away. When ice age began to drift away, the people who have migrated in smaller islands, and the water bodies in between got melted, and there used to be some kind of the bays were formed, just like the Bay of Bengal. That's why even in Indian perspective, you can see very primitive Negroid tribes in Andaman and Nicobar. Because in Andaman and Nicobar is one part in India where you see the very primitive Negrito tribes. Yes, we do have Negrito tribes in the form of the Habshi community in Karnataka and the coastal Gujarat, but they came much later. But this community I'm talking about happened when the initial evolution happened around 50 to 60,000 years, when that migratory pattern came, and these people got stuck in these small islands. And when around after 10,000 BC, what happened is, basically the water began to just melt away, and these smaller islands, you have seen these tribes. That's where you have the Jaravas, you have the Onge, Shompen, Andamanese, Nicobaris, and the Sentinelese. See, all of them are not Negrito tribes, right? There are Malay tribes related, like Mangaloid tribes are there, but Nicobaris, Jaravas, and the Sentinelese are our Negrito tribes. So that's what I'm telling, like how these people got stuck in these places. And if you move further around say, you can say around 7000 BC, so around the 10,000 BC to when it's reaching around 7000 BC, what you can find is basically a kind of a Mesolithic time. So what I will just divide the Stone Age. Lith literally means stone. You have the Paleolithic age, you have the Mesolithic age, and you have the Neolithic age. Paleo means old, Meso means in between, middle, and Neolithic basically means the Stone Age. And at the end of the Neolithic age is where you find something called as a Chalcolithic period, where you have the copper and Stone Age. That means metals are getting discovered, and from there you can see smaller and smaller a civilizational kind of a start in India. So from the Paleolithic, so when I'm talking about the stone tools, whether it is the core tools, flake tools, blade tools, all these things I'm talking about the Paleolithic period. And in the Mesolithic period, so Mesolithic period I'm talking about when the temperature began to change. So around the 10,000 BC to 7,000 BC, that time, what happens is, so these are not exact clear-cut dates, it varies. That's the reason why I'm just giving you an overall idea. But in the Mesolithic period, there is the invention of fire. Okay, and the people began to just go into other activities like fishing, and the roasted food began to be consumed by the human beings. There is, you can see, slight element of subsistence cultivation, all kind of things began. That means basically what happens is, from the higher up hilltop mountains, people are coming basically into the plain area. Okay, so that is a kind of a transitional period. People are forming itself into the tribes. You have that you can even have like even tools like the bows and arrows. So that means some kind of warfare has started, but not well-defined tribes and a nation state. Though nothing of that sort has happened. Subsistence agriculture was there, and but this is where you have to understand a very important question, right? How is geography related with history? Well, geography in a way creates history, because why are we seeing the Sentinelese tribes in a kind of a Chalcolithic or a some kind of metal stone age time even in this 2023? because they got stuck in an area where it was surrounded by the water bodies and hardly had any interaction with the outside world, and did not have any mines to actually mine and create a metal or something, and did not have a huge river valley to have a large scale agriculture. So their civilizational upliftment was limited by their geography. But places like, say, the Chinese Huanghe Valley, where the Chinese civilization, world's largest rice cultivating area, where it is the Nile Valley, the late Egyptian civilization, where there is the Tigris and Euphrates area, where there is the Mesopotamian civilization, the oldest civilization in the world. That is where all the religions have originated. You can see from that Middle Eastern region, right? And you have the Amazon. Amazon is not particularly entirely a river valley, because that area is a huge rainforest. That's the reason why even now also you have lot of aboriginal tribes in those regions. That is why an area where there is river valley away from the mountains, not heavily forested, and that was the area where it was very ideal for the creation of a large scale civilization. And in Indian subcontinent, it favored us in the form of that Punjab plain area, because the Indus and its tributaries, along with that there was the Saraswati river. Right now it is, you can say, only in streams in the form of Gagar Hakra. Okay, so that Indus Saraswati civilization was something that was actually formed, where these people from the Stone Age began to get moved into the river valleys, and they settled there, and then they began to have agriculture in a large scale way. That's why if you have seen Austrian anthropologists like Gordon Child, Child, Gordon Child, he has even termed it as the Neolithic Revolution. It was literally a revolution in the true sense, because that till that time you could not have found a proper agricultural revolution, in the sense it is giving food security for, say, 6 months or so. So that was a great change. So the change that happened is because once you have food security, you don't have to resort to hunting gathering. So in this case of Stone Age, what used to happen is there used to be a kind of a hunting gathering economy. So hunting gathering economy, what is the problem with hunting gathering economy? The problem with hunting gathering economy is you have to hunt for your daily food. So you have limited time to develop the culture, develop the language, develop the painting, develop the philosophical aspect of religion. All those things were not there. So once these things were fulfilled, began to get fulfilled, what happens is pottery began to get developed, because potter's wheel got developed. Wheel was also there in the Mesolithic period. Potter's wheel got developed, transportation got developed, and from the villages, small urban centers began to get formed. So once urban centers began to get formed, what happened? Once urban centers began to get formed, what you find is the culture began to get developed into a form of a civilization. And secondary economic activities like trade, commerce means basically it's a service, and it got developed, and that is how a bigger civilization from the smaller culture. If I put a Venn diagram, you can see the culture comes first from the villages, and it gets developed into the form of a civilization. So that is what we are going to discuss in the next video. So I hope you got an idea, an overview about the Stone Age period. And I wish to say, I will also project certain Stone Age sites, so you will get an idea. And also we do have certain Stone Age sites in the form of, for example, Andhra Pradesh, Kurnool area, we have the snow mounds are there. And also you can see the famous one is very evident in the form of the Bhimbetka caves in the Madhya Pradesh Bhopal region. It got its name from Bhim. Okay, and you have, like, even if you look into the North Indian part, you have in Uttar Pradesh there are sites in near Gorakhpur. There are sites. There are also evidences of rice cultivation from Uttar Pradesh. And also even in the Northeast India near the Silchar region, you have the Dao Jalli Haddi, is where an axe is found. You have sites there. So, and if you look into the early Stone Age sites, you can find lot of sites in the peninsular plateau where there is the hilly areas. Okay, even in Kerala you have the Idakal caves where you find the Neolithic sites. So that's what I am saying, right? So the sites from the hilltops, now the people are migrating into the valley areas, and in between the hunting gathering economy got changed in the form of an agricultural economy, and that transition happened in the during the time of Mesolithic age. And once they settled in the river valleys, what happened, full-fledged real-time cultivation happened, and it resulted in something called as a Neolithic revolution. So, and the Indus Valley civilization is somewhat kind of the manifestation of this Neolithic revolution. So that is what we are going to look into the next class. So stay tuned. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. I will come up in the next class with the Indus Valley civilization. Take care. Thank you.